I know you think you helped, but genius can't be crowdsourced. This vision, this success, this was always mine, and mine alone. Silas said it with a smile, his face illuminated by the single, harsh gallery spotlight aimed at our sculpture. The light caught the tiny bubbles in the champagne flute he was holding, making them glitter. Around us, the polite chatter of the art world patrons died, leaving a vacuum of sound. You're right, I said, my voice perfectly even. It is all yours now. Met in a brutalist concrete building during our master's program, both of us broke and obsessed with kinetic art. Silas was the talker, the magnetic one who could sell an idea sketched on a napkin. I was the builder, the one who knew how to make the gears turn without stripping. Our first collaboration was a final project, a chaotic whirl of polished aluminum and light sensors. We spent 3 straight nights in the campus workshop, fueled by vending machine coffee and a shared, frantic energy. Remember the smell of ozone from the welder and Silas laughing, saying we were like mad scientists creating a metal god. That was the good memory. The first red flag came a week later, during our critique. He presented the project, using the word I 17 times. He referred to my complex gear train design as the technical stuff I had my partner handle. Dr. Thorne, our professor, raised an eyebrow, but I said nothing. He was the visionary, I told myself. I just made the vision move. Our partnership, Studio SY, had a golden period that lasted 2 years. We worked out of my drafty warehouse loft, a space I paid for by taking on freelance coding gigs he knew nothing about. We landed the Vesper Hotel lobby installation, a massive, slowly undulating brass piece that got us a mention in Art Forum. I remember celebrating with tacos from a food truck on Larimer Street, sitting on the curb while Silas sketched new ideas on a greasy paper bag. It was all grand gestures and big dreams. I was the one ordering custom ball bearings from a German supplier and spending weeks calibrating the motors. The imbalance grew so slowly I barely noticed. He handled the clients, the press, and the money. I handled the 18-hour days, the soldering burns, and the impossible physics. He'd bring potential buyers to the loft, and I'd hear him through the thin walls, explaining the intricate programming he had developed. I rationalized it as a division of labor. It was the front man, I was the band. But then the payments for my half of our commissions started coming later and later. He'd say the gallery's check was late, or that he'd had to sink the funds into a new LLC for tax purposes. I was too exhausted to argue. The clue that changed everything was an email, sent to me by mistake. It was from a metals supplier in Phoenix. Silas, it read, just confirming receipt of payment in full for the titanium alloy order. Glad we could get it to you before the gallery deadline. A pleasure doing business with Studio Silas, not Studio SY, Studio Silas. And the invoice attached was for $28,000, an order I had paid for myself, from my personal savings, 6 weeks earlier. He hadn't just delayed my profit share. He had been double-dipping, charging clients for materials I was buying and pocketing the difference. For the next 3 months, I became an archaeologist of my own life. I spent my nights sifting through our shared Dropbox, a digital tomb he had long forgotten. I found the original client contracts, then located the altered versions he'd created for his secret bank account. The numbers were staggering. It wasn't just the Vesper project. It was the piece for the Denver airport, the private commission for that tech billionaire. The total theft amounted to $78,400. Each new PDF I opened felt like another shovel of dirt on the coffin of our friendship. The breaking point was the gallery opening for Ecolite, our most ambitious work. It was a 7-foot column of interlocking glass and steel that responded to ambient sound. It was my masterpiece. My code, my mechanics, my design. When I arrived, I saw the little brass plaque on the pedestal. It read, Ecolite, Silas Vance. My name was nowhere. Ms. Davies, our biggest client, was there. So was Dr. Thorne, who had flown in for the show. I found Silas holding court by the bar. When I confronted him, his smile never wavered. Put a hand on my shoulder, a gesture of performative sympathy for the small crowd that had gathered. I know you think you helped, but genius can't be crowdsourced. You were the hands, Yara, I was the soul. This vision, this success, this was always mine and mine alone. My world went silent. In that single, blinding moment under the gallery lights, my grief curdled into ice. The plan began to form, cold and perfect and clear. And I noticed he was holding his black moleskin sketchbook, the one he always carried, filled with his ideas. I knew for a fact that pages 34 through 41 contained my original gear schematics for Ecolite. He had stolen my work, and now he was carrying the evidence as a prop. The next morning, I called Zara Khan. She was an intellectual property attorney with a reputation for surgically dismantling charismatic frauds. Her retainer was $15,000, nearly everything I had left. For the next 6 weeks, my loft became a war room. I compiled a master Dropbox folder for Zara, meticulously organized. There were 112 files in total. Evidence was irrefutable. My original timestamped digital blueprints from my laptop's hard drive, bank statements showing the wire transfers for materials from my personal account, the supplier's email, screenshots of early text message conversations where we agreed to a 50-50 split. One night I almost got caught. Silas texted me at 2 a.m. Hey, weird request. Can you send me the raw files for the Vesper piece? My backup drive crashed. My blood ran cold. I was trying to erase my digital history. I waited exactly 15 minutes before replying. Sorry, that drive died ages ago. Hope you can recover it. The ironic coincidence that sealed his fate came a week later. Dr. Thorne emailed me. Yara, fantastic work on Ecolite. I'm giving a lecture on modern fabrication and would love to show your schematics as a prime example of elegant engineering. Would you have them? I now had a respected, impartial expert witness who could testify to my sole authorship of the core mechanics. The final piece of Zara's strategy was the decoy. She sent Silas a formal but vaguely worded demand letter, proposing a private mediation to discuss unsettled partnership finances. To an egomaniac like him, it sounded like a shakedown, a nuisance he could swat away. He agreed immediately, eager to put his technical assistant in her place. Zara's only instruction to his lawyer was that Silas bring all original concept materials to prove his singular vision. He was walking into the execution chamber with the weapon in his own hands. We met in a sterile conference room with gray walls and a long, polished table that reflected our faces like a dark lake. Silas strode in, all confidence and condescension, dropping his famous moleskin sketchbook onto the table with a theatrical thud. Yara, he began, I'm willing to be generous. Let's call it a severance. $5,000 and we never speak again. Zara didn't even look at him. She simply turned her laptop toward him. The first wave of evidence was the money. She walked him through the secret Studio Silas bank accounts, the altered invoices, the direct proof of wire fraud. His bravado began to crack. He stammered about overhead about business expenses, his face losing its color. He insisted the ideas, the core concepts, were his. And which ideas are those? Zara asked quietly. She nodded at the sketchbook. The one's in there. Of course, Silas said, grabbing it. This is the genesis of Ecolite. It's all in here. He opened it to page 34, showing off my drawings. Zara clicked a button on her laptop. The large monitor on the wall lit up. It was a time-lapse video, shot from a fixed angle in my loft months ago. It showed my hand, my pen, filling that exact sketchbook, page by page. It showed me sketching the very schematics he was claiming as his own. He zoomed in on a distinctive coffee stain shaped like the state of Idaho on page 37 in the video. Then Zara gestured to the open book on the table, where the same stain sat, a dark, damning freckle on the paper. Silas stared at the screen, then at the book. The connection fired in his brain. There was no sound, but I could see the complete collapse happen behind his eyes. Like you said, Silas, I murmured into the profound silence. It's all yours now. Settlement agreement was signed before he left the room. There was no public lawsuit. He gave me everything to avoid federal fraud charges. He signed over the full $78,400 he had stolen, plus another $36,600 in damages. He relinquished all legal claims to Ecolite and 3 other major works, and a press release was drafted correcting the artistic credit. 24 hours my phone buzzed incessantly with calls from gallery owners, from Ms. Davies, from Dr. Thorne, all apologizing, all shocked. I ignored them all. About a year later, I saw him. He was working at a high-end design store downtown, arranging minimalist floor lamps. The great visionary, the soul of the work, was now just the hands, adjusting things other people had created. He saw me through the window, and for a moment his face was just blank. Then he turned away. My new studio, Valen Designs, is quiet and clean and mine. I landed a commission for the city's new botanical garden, a piece even bigger than Ecolite. Last week, the lead architect came to see the prototype. She stood before it for a long time, watching the delicate metal petals open and close. She turned to me, her eyes wide with genuine wonder. This vision, she said, it's entirely yours, isn't it? It was, and it always would be.